Hi, my name is Amy, and I'm fixing to give y'all the story time and a little bit of who the F did I marry. Last time I posted this, I was pretty much bullied and threatened into silence. And now, it's 10 years out. So, you may remember me a couple of years ago, I had posted the story time of how I married my high school teacher. So I'm going to re-put that out there, because I was pushed into deleting it when it's my story and other parties could have came out with their story. So whenever I was 17, I was, of course, a senior in high school. One of my teachers, my last period, had slid his number around and a time for me to call him.
Yeah, lock him up.
I had been told that him and the wife were getting a divorce, they weren't living together, and all that came out, and it was not true. He had lied. He was probably my teacher from 9th or 10th grade to my senior year. So we had built a friendship or a relationship. Looking back now, it was definitely grooming, because, we would talk like we were best friends, hang out, with the whole class, etc. So I truly believed that he told me that they were getting a divorce, and I believed that. I shouldn't have, but I believed it. So when I called him that night, of course I'm nervous. He was telling me that he had liked me for a couple of years. That past summer, he couldn't get me out of his head.
Hell no.
Yada, yada, yada. All the love bombing that you could think of going on went on, and in my brain, I truly thought he meant it. I will say, whenever I found out that they were, in fact, not getting a divorce and that was a lie, I remember having a conversation with the wife at the time. And I want to say, she gave me so much grace that I probably couldn't give to somebody else if they had done. So I just want to put that out there. She was never rude to me. Nothing. Never once. She talked to me a lot about Jesus, and if I believed in Jesus, and if I believed, what I did was wrong, which at the time, I'm 18 years old now, and I know best, etc. Nobody can tell you anything at 18. So we had continued talking, and it had been going on for about a month and a half. My dad had went out of town, and I went and stayed with him behind my parents' back. So it was just a slippery slope after that. It had kind of made its way around school. We weren't very quiet about it. I guess you could say it wasn't very secretive because I was 18, didn't think nothing could happen, which is a lie. So it made its way around the school, and one day he had called me the night before and said, I think that they are going to come to the school and question us tomorrow. And so I was prepared for that because one of the sisters had told him that it was getting around to his niece and stuff at the school that him and I were in a relationship. So we carried on our relationship. Then the detectives did come in. We were put in separate rooms, questioned for hours. Cops were there. All the above that you can think of. So I remember going home that night and panicking. And I get a call from an unknown number, and it's him asking what I had said to the detectives. Which, that first interview, I really didn't give a whole lot at all. I pretty much denied. Well, it was Thanksgiving break, and I remember I'm gonna have to tell my dad about this. My dad had custody of us, me, my brother, and my sister. But my plan was to tell him after Thanksgiving. Family dinner was over. Well, I get a call Thanksgiving morning, and it's my dad. And I instantly knew why he was calling me. And he had asked me about it, and I had told him the truth. And he told me that we needed to sit down after Thanksgiving, pretty much told me that there was no reason for somebody to go to jail over something that I consented to. So we sat down and we had conversations.
That's what the daddy said?
Was told that him and I were not allowed to talk anymore. And, of course, being young and dumb, found a way around that. Should have just let it be, but can't take it back now. I did a lot, of wrong things, especially to, the wife. I should have ended it as soon as I found out that they were, in fact, not getting a divorce, but I didn't. Nobody could tell me anything. My dad had tried to talk some sense into me, like whenever I was going to be in my prime of my life, I was probably going to have to be changing his diapers. It was rough, and it was really rough. And I was 18, and I was fully head over heels in love. Thought that he was going to be my forever. So as soon as all this court case started coming out, of course, that's whenever his divorce was going through, finally. So after that, before he was ever divorced, I was pretty much already proposed to, which I thought was done out of, I guess, a good heart. Looking back now, he proposed to get out of jail. He needed me to marry him, that way he could not be, that way I couldn't go up on the stand and testify truthfully. I don't think he ever truly loved me at all. But, that's here nor there, because you just don't do things like that to people that you love. So we ended up getting married at the end of my senior year. I think it was in June that we got married, because we had to wait 60 days after his divorce was final. And on that 61st to 62nd day, we were married. And this was international news. It had been going on. We were being followed by multiple news outlets. But back to that, we were living together, married, fine, and he started being very abusive mentally at first. When we got married, it was how he was worried that I was going to go tell the world. I remember my dad sitting me down and talking about it, and I remember wanting to protect him so bad because I knew how much trouble he could get into, that I literally lied and said I was the aggressor, when in reality he put the sticky note on the desk and gave it to me that said his number and the time to call him. But I was willing to protect him at all cost. But if that even meant me getting in trouble, that's what I wanted to do.
I don't blame her.
The mental abuse started first. There was one time where we were in an argument. He had woke me up at 3 a.m., arguing with me about it, because my dad was helping the DA, which I can't blame him. I was his baby.
I would have been the DA.
Some grown man who knew better didn't care. So he's yelling at me in the middle of the night to call my dad and ask my dad why my dad wants him in jail so bad. It had gotten really bad. It started on I needed to call the ex-wife and apologize for ruining her family. When in reality, all I ever did was to protect him. He had chased me down our long hallway one time to grab my phone because of how bad it was. I was trying to call his sister. And I just let all this stuff go in the morning because I didn't want him to be in trouble. So we moved to a bigger city. Things were okay for a little bit, and that's when things get rocky again. The mental abuse and the verbal abuse comes back. The things that I allowed him to do to me blows my mind, because I would have never, ever have allowed that with anybody else. So we remained married. I was working really hard because he, of course, got fired from his job as a teacher, as he should. And we had bills and child support to pay at this point. So I made sure to get a good job where I could help support both sides. You'll have to come back to part 2 for the rest. I'm running out of time. Okay, so this is part 2 of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? I married my high school teacher whenever I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school. So when we went to get our marriage certificate, it was told we needed to go to a different county than what we lived in. That way that the DA couldn't block the, I guess, marriage certificate. I don't really know how that works. So we went and got our marriage certificate in Fulton County and then headed straight down to Gulf Shores and went to the Gulf Shores Wedding Chapel pretty much and got married within like an 8 to 10 hour span. So, I had to break it to my dad after that yes, we had indeed got married. Everybody was blowing me up. So when we got married and we got back, things were great at the beginning. And that's when everything started to go downhill. We moved. We constantly had people following us from the news. And it truly was sad. Looking back on it, like, I can't believe, like, I accepted what I accepted. But it is what it is at this point. I'm finally healing and growing from it. But there were certain rules that I had to follow pretty much by him whenever we got married. I could not go out without makeup. Like, full face of makeup every day because it made me look older. Because he was an older man. It looked like we were, father-daughter. But he thought that if I wore makeup, that, it'd all be fine. Things started getting rocky, like the mental abuse that I talked about in part 1. That was just a touch of it. He would tell me that I needed to call the ex and apologize for ruining her family. I was told, of course, that I had to wear makeup. I was told I wasn't pretty, fat, all the names that you can think of, I was called. And if he didn't want that to happen to his child, it should have never happened to me. But is what it is at this point. So life went on like that. He had several guns, and there was multiple arguments where he would put the gun to his head and tell me to end it, or he'd put it to my head and tell me to end it. And I remember there was one specific fight that we had gotten into, and it was in front of a bunch of our friends. We used to have, like, these little block parties with people in our neighborhood. He would end up arguing with me at the end of the night because it would be 9 o'clock. He's ready to go home. I'm 21. I'm not ready to go home. So we had ended up getting in an argument, and several people ended up after that messaging me asking if I was okay. So that was they had multiple red flags before that, but that kind of sealed the deal with them, that they knew I was being physically and verbally and mentally abused, financially abused, etc. When all I wanted to do was protect him. It was constantly told, are you going to go to the news, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was never going to whenever we were married. Whenever I asked for a divorce, it was a couple weeks after that night, after our friends had reached out to us. He had went through my phone one night and had seen where I was messaging my dad proof of abuse, and I was messaging one of our really good friends proof of abuse, and one of our really good friends was like, this isn't worth that. Like, you deserve more than that. There's somebody out there that's going to give you everything that you want and need, and won't talk to you like that, won't put a gun to your head, won't put a gun to their head, all the above. So it was like a week after that, I remember I was not allowed to talk to my dad during the duration of mine and his relationship. He held a grudge against my dad because my dad was helping the DA of the case, so I was not allowed to talk to my dad, which was really hard because my dad had custody of us for as long as I could have remembered. I don't ever remember a time where he didn't. I was so young.
I fear the day that this happens to me. Imagine raising your daughter the right way her whole life just for a weird pedo to come in her life and completely manipulate her into not seeing you or talking to you ever again.
Yeah, he brainwashed her. I think that's why he targeted her, because she was so young and easy to manipulate.
This is crazy. I feel bad for any parent out there that's going through something like this. This is what do you do in this situation? Me personally, I would have. Matter of fact, I don't even think we can say it on YouTube. I just wouldn't have handled that well. But at the same time, she's saying that she's 18, but it would have still hit me hard because just knowing that you're my daughter's teacher and you've been her teacher for the last 4 years, that would have blew me. I don't think I would have been able to. Like her dad is handling this a lot better than me, if you ask me.
Yeah, he was definitely grooming her. And the fact that the school didn't do more or saw any signs is blowing my mind.
This is crazy. What do y'all think, Messy Family, so far?
So that was really hard. I wasn't mad at my dad for doing that. I mean, I kind of was, but I kind of wasn't. He was doing what he thought was best for his child, as would anybody, as would I at this point. So I was not allowed to talk to him unless, we were in an argument. He was telling me to blow his phone up, asking why he wants him to go to jail, etc. So that was kind of the gist of that. And I remember I called my dad in the middle of nowhere. I had had enough. We had a sectional couch and I was held down in the corner of it to where I couldn't get up. And of course the gun had came out again. It always did. And I remember telling my dad, like, I'm done. I'm ready to get out. And I sat in that abuse for almost 5 years. And even at the end of it, I remember talking to my dad because whenever I asked for a divorce and he knew that I wanted one, all he was worried about was what was I going to say to everybody? Was I going to take it to the news? Was I going to sell my story? Etc. He was never worried about losing his marriage to me because he loved me. He was worried about himself. He was selfish in that moment, didn't care. And I even told my dad whenever I had called my dad and told him, I was like, look, I want a divorce. My dad was like, well, I thought y'all were okay. Are you just in an argument? Like, are you just mad at him and tomorrow you're going to be okay? And I had to break it to my dad that a grown man was hitting his child. And that was really, really hard. Like, it makes me tear up now because I still remember the conversation. And even in the conversation after that, and after I had showed him the proof, all I had told him was, if I tell you the rest, you'll kill it. And he said, baby, I'm not going to kill him. And I said, well, I think you'll pay somebody to. And he said, baby, I promise you I won't touch a hair on that man's head, nor will I pay somebody to. And I ended up having to tell my dad that I was being very, very, very abused. Mentally, physically, emotionally, anything that you can think of. I was so beat down by the time of it. Like, I truly believed everything he said. That I wasn't worthy of our relationship. Like, all the above. I wasn't pretty enough. Wasn't skinny enough. I, had to wear makeup all the time.
I bet.
All of
That's
that.
crazy.
And that was a really hard thing to finally admit because I would have never admitted it had people not started pointing it out like, you don't deserve that and there's more out there. So it wasn't very long after that. My dad had told me, well, let's get some things in order, like tough it out for about a week, get your paycheck put into your physical account, not your joint account. Get all that situated and let's get you out of there. And he had planned a time for him to come up whenever my ex was at work and we were going to move all my stuff out. So I think it was like 2 days before that, 2 or 3 days, he had woke me up and he was like, I went through your phone. Like, I know X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to work today, etc. Anything that you can think of. I'm coming home from work. Like, I can't believe that you would do this. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, it was just nonsense after that. So I remember calling my dad and one of my really good friends in the neighborhood because I knew he would be home. That I had already told them what had been going on, and I was like, look, he's coming. He went through my phone. Like, he's coming back from work, and I'm worried. So he gets back from work, and of course the gun and everything starts coming out. And I remember calling the friend, and he had me by the arm on the phone with him, and I just remember the friend being like, let her go or I'm going to come down there. My dad was like, call the cops. I ended up going to
Fine.
work,
Call
so
the
I had to
cops.
work
Yeah.
that night. I ended up going to work, and my assistant manager, her and I were really good friends. She went to that house with a box cutter in her back pocket and grabbed all my clothes. I didn't care about.
Listen, at the end of the day, I feel like this is what you get the police involved for. The reason why I feel like he keeps doing what he's doing is because you're going to call everybody but the authorities. That's just like putting somebody else's life at risk just to help you out. You could easily just call the police at the end of the day. Like I understand that you can; those people are probably close to you, but you like that's just crazy to me. Like, yeah, call the police. Police should have been called in this situation, if you ask me.
This man, I can't, I think he just had a feeling like I don't know if she was being distant around this time because the fact he went through her phone as soon as she's about to leave, it's like he knew his time was up.
Man, the fact that he got a joint account with her is just crazy. It's like, dude, you knew you was about. I feel like he did that because he knew he wasn't about to make no money. And what better situation to be in than be married to somebody who's working and can put money into account that both of you have a card to, a spend card to.
And she's helping pay his child support.
Like, imagine that, 18 years old, fresh out of school. Usually, most kids go off to go to college. They about to start their careers, and she's already in like a situation where she's a stepmom and a like. It's just crazy.
Like she said, he was financially abusing her, and I think that was because he didn't want her to like go get away from her.
Yeah, this is wild. This story is just wild. But like I said, she's saying she 18. I don't know how many years. I'm not keeping track of the time. Did you see like what time, like how long they've been together so far?
Um,
I don't know. I
this
feel
is
like this
I think
still the
this is the
first year.
beginning. Yeah, this is the
Okay.
beginning.
Wow, there's a lot to be going through in the first year of a marriage. Like wickedness. Next time, call the police. Call the police if you ever in a situation like this. Don't call your mom and your friend. No, call the police.
The furniture that I had in there, I didn't care about the TVs, I didn't care about the blankets, I didn't care about anything. All I said was, get my clothes. She literally went with a box cutter in the back of her pocket because she was worried about it too, just to get my things. You'll have to go to part 3. Okay, this is part 3 of how I married my high school teacher and who the F did I marry.
That's a wild title.
And I want to say, like, this is national, international news. This isn't to embarrass anybody. It's part of my healing journey for my story to get out there. So whenever she went and grabbed my clothes, I had moved in with my mom. I was staying with her a little bit, my best friend. And all he was worried about that whole entire time was I going to go to the news? Was I going to tell my side of the story? Was I going to paint him in a bad light? Because that's all he was worried about was his image on how he never did that. Which
Right.
I know I'm not the first woman he abused, and I know I'm not the last either. But I remember my dad telling me one specific thing. He had ended up calling my dad and asking, like, could he talk to me? And, see if there was any way that we could work out. My dad was just like, look, like, I can't make her love you. Like, whatever's happened has happened. So, whenever I'd moved in with my mom, that, love bombing starts again. He's like, I'll get rid of the guns. Like, I'll do whatever to make you comfortable. Like, I just want to be with you. And it was never that he wanted to be with me. It was that he did not want everybody to know who he was and how he was.
Mm.
And it's truly sad for, every party in it, including said child. So whenever I told my dad I wanted a divorce and that came up, he had me an
Why
appointment,
does
I
it
think a
keep?
week later, with an attorney. My dad did. He
You
paid
hear it?
for it. And I
Mm-mm.
went in and
Did the fucking disconnected?
Mm. All right, let's go back. We're gonna go back, Messy Family. We having some technical difficulties with this one. Let's just go back a little bit.
it's truly sad for, every party in it, including said child. So whenever I told my dad I wanted a divorce and that came up, he had me an appointment, I think a week later, with an attorney. My dad did. He paid for it. And I went in, and the only thing I asked for was my car, and that was it. I needed the car that was in my name. He could keep the one that was in his name. Didn't matter to me. And then I remember we had to meet back up for us both to sign the divorce papers. And he was like, well, I've got X, Y, and Z of her stuff that she left in my car. I need the key back to the apartment. And I remember my attorney being like, let's go outside to get it, but you're not going to be outside with him alone, because we're not going to do that, especially after everything. And I remember he had called me to the apartment, and he was like, please, let's just talk. And this was before we met with the attorney. He had his sister there, and we're going through everything, everything that had been done, everything that had been said, and it was just protect him at all costs. He admitted it, because he admitted it to my dad, and he admitted it to my mother. But he was not in the wrong. Never in the wrong was he. It was always my fault. Always. I deserved it, X, Y, and Z. So, I remember having that conversation and showing the proof and telling them, and I was literally told that it was not as bad as I'm making it seem. So I was told, well, it's not the abuse isn't as bad as what you're saying it is, so you need to stay and you just need to take it. And at that point, I was done. Whenever I'm that person, like, whenever I'm done, and there's no going back. I don't have anything for you at that point. So I was at that point. I was very much at that point. So I remember going, I'm leaving, and he didn't want me to leave, and he was yelling at me, and the sister was like, no, you need to let her go. And so I left, went back home to my mother's, and after that, it was pretty much done. He had showed up at my work one time, maybe twice. He had showed up at my work unannounced. And things ended up happening, and my boss was like, no, you need to go home, and I'm going to actually send you to Tuscaloosa. That way you can get away from it for a little bit. He followed me all the way to Tuscaloosa. Like, crazy things. Crazy things. And at the end of it, I didn't care what happened to me. I still was on lookout for him. And looking back, that is sick to me, how you could do that to somebody, especially somebody that you claim you love. Knowing how hurt and beat down I was, that I believed everything, all the negative that he had said, knowing that he very well did that. And he just didn't care. He played on that. So, this is not about my marriage now. So the very good friend that helped me through a lot of this, we are married. We did not have an affair. Nothing like that happened. We did not get together till a year and a half, 2 years after my divorce. And I truly thought that my ex-husband loved me until I got with my husband now. And the amount of love that man has for me, that my ex never had love for me. Never. There's no way. He had love for himself, and he was only on the lookout for himself. And I think that's the only reason he stayed, is because he was worried about me telling my side of the story. I've told this side one time before, and I was called and pretty much threatened for anything that you can think of, because I didn't show up to the court date, which I didn't have to, because I was not subpoenaed to. I was threatened and bullied to take it off the internet. Well, everybody's grown now. I truly believed at the end of it, like, I literally thought it was just me, and I was depressed. I literally went and got myself on medication because I thought it was just me. I was depressed, etc. And now that I'm in therapy, I've been in therapy since about 6 months after we divorced. It was a very, very, very downward spiral for me after that. That I couldn't come to terms with what I had allowed that grown man to do to me. And it just ate me up. It ate me up. I'm actually on the way home from therapy right now, which is, partly the reason why I'm telling my story. And I used to say, like, I don't know how, like, I can't forgive him. How do I move on from this now? And at the end of the day, like, I don't forgive him for him. I forgive him for me. I forgive myself and give myself grace because no, I did not deserve that. But I was so also mad at myself that I had stayed and I allowed that to happen to me. So, I'm sorry to myself, like, I try to give myself grace with that because that's just a hard thing to go through at 17, 18, 19 years old. Looking back now, like, I see all the red flags, but then, like, I was 17 and 18, you couldn't have told me. I knew everything. I truly believe that the whole frontal lobe thing, once that develops, like, you see a whole different side. But if this could, if anybody's going through this, like, it's just not worth it. The abuse isn't worth it. This needs to be your sign to get out because you deserve better and there is better out there. My husband now, he never, never, never yells at me, doesn't slam things down, doesn't point guns at me, doesn't point guns at himself, doesn't, put my head through a wall, doesn't choke me. None of the above. That man just truly loves me, and I truly love him with every part of my being. And that's all I can hope for people that are going through that same thing. And it may not be that you married your teacher. It may just be, that you're in domestic violence, and just know, like, you're seen, you're heard, and it will get better, and you will find better. Okay, so this is going to be kind of like a part 4 of me marrying my high school teacher, and
Let this be a lesson to all people in this type of situation. Like, this is something we can all learn from. Even though we past the age, most of us, we can look at our children and just be ready to prepare for those type of things because you never know. These schools are weird. The fact that he didn't even lose his job, I mean, all he did was lost his job at that time and not ended up in prison is crazy to me. Who knew that you could just marry somebody that you slept with in high school and then these cases would just go away? Like, this don't even make no damn sense to me. And I guess because she was protecting him so much, it shouldn't even have mattered who pursued who in that situation. At the end of the day, the teacher is at fault for being an administrator and abusing his authority.
Yeah, and I love that she gives herself so much grace from this because this teacher should have been somebody she could trust, who she can confide in, and not be taken advantage of, which he did. And the fact that he married her, like she said, it was only to protect himself. I don't think he did it because he really loved her. He did it so that the cops would get off his back.
All right.
And it just showed as soon as they got married and they moved away, the abuse started instantly. Now you can't talk to your father anymore. Now I'm degrading you and making you feel less than. And his only concern was don't go to the news.
Right.
And yeah, just put her in a pickle where she can't even financially leave him.
Yeah, he didn't want that story getting out there. He know how this is going to look. This is weird, dude. You a pedo. I don't care if she was 18 personally because you've been in school with her for the last 4 years and you just decided. You've been looking at her. You weird. He's weird.
It just makes me think, is this the first student he ever pursued?
Right.
Or is this just the first time he got caught?
And the fact that he was so comfortable to have rumors spreading around the school is crazy. Like,
didn't even your niece are even there, so now it's getting back to your family.
Right. Wasn't even trying to be discreet. How embarrassing. They're trying to blame this woman for ruining your marriage when you were married to this woman. That was your commitment to your wife. It wasn't her commitment. Yeah, is she wrong for dating a married man? Yes. But how can I get mad at an 18-year-old little girl who don't, like, you can't tell them nothing sometimes, really, and trying to tell women why you shouldn't mess with a married person, or telling a man why you can't mess with a married person at that age is like talking to a wall. To them, it's just like another dating cycle. This is just another dating thing. They don't look at marriage and hold value like us, the older folks. We look at it a lot differently. But that doesn't mean we can't correct our children, man. This is sad. And honestly, she's a victim in this situation, so I'm not even mad at her at all. I just salute to her for being confident enough to get on here and tell this story because, man, this is a story.
I think the ex-wife, her dad, the sister, they all let her down because everyone knew what was going on. But instead of trying to go to the police, they're trying to talk the 18-year-old into stopping it. When there is a grown man that's causing all of this.
Right. What do y'all think? I know there's probably emotions going crazy right now. Let us know what y'all think in the comments.
Who the F did I marry? I'm going to kind of give y'all like a rundown of like the big things that I could remember that I allowed and I accepted and I thought I had deserved it. Number one, being the top one, was I was told to call his ex and apologize and try to get them back together. No one deserves that, but I think he did it because he knew that's what hurt me the most. Number two if we were in a fight, it was never like, let's sit down and talk about it like adults. It was a knockout drag out, and it would end with him either putting his shotgun to his head and telling me to end it, or putting it to my head and putting my hand on it and telling me to end it. No one deserves that. Nobody. Number two was I was always forced to wear makeup. If I didn't, it was an argument. Didn't matter where we were going. Didn't matter if we were sitting at home. Always had to have a full face of makeup on. He said I looked older with makeup, and if I was not wearing makeup, of course, people thought he was my dad. I mean, he was 19 years older than I am. Nobody deserves that either. Some other things that I accepted was always, when it was a knockout drag out, like I would be crawling down our hallway trying to get away from him, and it was just like tower on top of me. I wasn't allowed to talk to my dad. I could only talk to my mom and my sister, but when my sister had my nephew and my niece, they were not allowed to come over. They were not allowed to stay the night. Nothing. He wanted nothing to do with my family. It was a fight if I wanted to go see them, etc. No one deserves that either. That's him trying to alienate you. So I just want to say, like, there's plenty more that I could go back and I can say, but that's just like the top that I constantly think about. It took me a long time and a lot of therapy to realize that I did not deserve any of that, and I should have never had to go through that. And whenever I say, like, I forgive him, it's not for him, it's for me. Because had his child had to come to him and say what I had to go tell my dad, he would have ended up wanting to kill somebody. And so it was kind of just like an F you. So I'm just telling you now, like, October is Domestic Violence Awareness, and I want to bring awareness to it, because nobody deserves that, whether you're a male or you're a female. Nobody deserves to be abused. Nobody deserves to go through that. Nobody deserves to go through worse. I will say, it never gets better, and I think I hung on to hope that it would get better, and it never gets better. It only ever gets worse, and I truly mean that. There was times where I was choked in between our sectional couch where it fees. So I just want to say, like, if you're in it, there is a way out, and there's a brighter side to it. I will say him and I are no longer together. We've been divorced years now. Who y'all see on my Facebook where I just got married March 1st of 2025, to the love of my life. And whenever I tell y'all, if you're in it right now, I know it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm telling you it's there. Whenever I tell you this man's love for me runs so deep, he could never and would never do the things that have been done to me. He has built walls around my walls so people can't hurt me, and he would literally do everything in his power to protect me. And that's what everybody deserves. So, thanks for listening to my story times. I know it was long, but thanks for tagging along, and I hope you'll have a great day. Okay, so this is touching on the part 5 or part 6 of Who the F Did I Marry? And I married my high school teacher whenever I was 18 years old. He was 36 to 37. A lot of people have a question about how court went and why it was illegal whenever I was 18. So I'm going to kind of touch on that. So it was illegal. In the state of Alabama, you have to be 19 to date a teacher. That means any teacher in the state of Alabama couldn't, even if I wasn't directly his student, he would still have gotten in trouble. Doesn't matter that I was 18 in the state of Alabama. You have to be 19. And I did hide some information that kept him with the most minor charge that he could have had. He got sexual abuse of a student under the age of 19, I think is what the exact charge was. And I'll tell you kind of how court went that day. So when we were going through all this court process, we ended up getting married. Back then I thought, oh, he's marrying me because he was in love with me. And no, it was to completely save himself from being arrested or having more convictions on him. So he did go to jail. He bailed out. And then we had this year's worth of court. So it came down to, being that we got married, I technically didn't have to testify against him because he was then my spouse. So what the DA did was set up a court date, and we had to go to Huntsville, and a judge had to rule if I had to testify or not. It was said that if I got up on the stand and I said I'm not testifying because he's my husband, I would have not been held in contempt. So I kind of got my right, but without getting my right, because I was said that I had to be up there at least at the podium. So after that court date, I had to get my own attorney. I couldn't use his no longer. So my attorney said that if I was not subpoenaed, then I did not need to show up to court. She never subpoenaed me. He told me to go to work and go home and go get groceries. Everything that was in my normal routine I needed to do. I didn't need to run from getting a subpoena, etc. She just thought, in my opinion, that I was going to show up because that was my husband and that was it. I was never subpoenaed. So the day of court, from what I was told, they went in and they were picking the jury. And then that first day, she had said that I was not there and that I needed to be there. And my attorney said that they asked for the subpoena and she couldn't provide it because I was never served one. So they spent that whole afternoon and night trying to subpoena me, and never could. I did what I was supposed to. I went home, went to work, got food, etc. Again, I was still never subpoenaed. She tried to tape it on the apartment door, and I was not at our apartment. She tried to tape it on the door, and the judge still said no. So being that I was not there, she did not have the victim of the crime there to testify. So it kind of threw the case out. So he was acquitted of his crime, because I did not show up to court. Absolutely, then I thought that I was doing no wrong. It was a great relationship. It wasn't a wrong situation. I wasn't groomed. I wasn't a victim. And looking back now, after everything that I went through, completely wrong. Completely wrong. I was groomed. I was a victim. And there was multiple adults that tried to help me and save me from the situation. Still a lot of questions about my dad. I want to reiterate, I have a great dad. My dad has had custody of us since we were young. No one, and I mean no one, could have expected this from me. When I say I was not in trouble, like, I was a very good kid, was home by 7 or 8 o'clock at night, never got in fights. Like, I was a all-around good kid. So my dad still had to work, and he was out of town when all of this started. So I had went up to Gunnersville, and me and said teacher had stayed in a camper up in Gunnersville for that week that my dad was gone. So it was a very big shock when this came out. Like, my dad was very shocked about it. My whole family was. So he kind of played the card of, I don't think he needs to go to jail if it's something that you consented to and you're 18 years old, but we need to sit down and we need to have a conversation about what has went on. So he played the card right. He did, because I would have never given him the information had he not said that. And I opened up with whatever situation we had came up with, me and said teacher. I told my dad everything, and he took it directly to the district attorney and to the police, as he should. Then he also made me an appointment with the district attorney and drove me there and told me that I was going to go in and I was going to tell her everything.
which I told her the same thing. Me and said teacher had already talked about, I guess, pretty much the story, which was so wrong. But so that's kind of how he got acquitted for his crime. So yes, he married me absolutely to stay out of jail, and I was completely smitten and in love with him. So I also want to touch that I'm sure I'm not the only one he was abusive to. Don't know for sure, but I can also assure you that I was not the last either. He's going to continue to do it to people, and there's probably nothing that anybody's going to be able to stop him unless they file charges against him. So that's pretty much it for right now. I also want to say that everybody coming to me and telling me their stories or similar situations or their domestic violence, abuse, etc., it truly breaks my heart how many people have came to me and told me how much they related to the story that I have given. Like, it truly breaks my heart because no one deserves that kind of treatment. And I just want to say that I hope that you are better now. I hope that you've gotten out of the situation. If not, I'm praying for you. My thoughts are with you. There's so much more to life than that, and going through that. So I just pray and I hope that soon you can open up and see that it's not right and you can get out of the situation. But if you have any more questions, please let me know. I'm free to answer them. Thank you. Okay, so this is more on how I married my high school teacher and who the F did I marry. A lot of questions are like, why or how did your family not know about the abuse that you were going through? So I have a great family. I just want to touch on that. I have a phenomenal family. Whenever me and said teacher got together and my family started working with the police, that was a no-no. It was a no-go. I could no longer speak to my family, especially my dad, especially my brother, especially my stepmother. I was allowed to talk to my mother and I could talk to my sister. But my sister has 4 children now, but she had 2 whenever all this was going on. And I'm a very big family person. Like, I truly believe in that. And my niece and my nephew are my whole world. All of them are. So I was very much the aunt that would be like, yeah, send them over. Like, I want them to stay the night. Like, loved them, wanted to spend all the money on them, etc. But he was very much against that. It got to the point where, like, whenever I was off work and he was at work, like, I would have to hide that I was going down to visit them. My mom, my niece, my nephew, my sister, I couldn't, and I don't think he even knows, probably still to this day, that I was doing it behind his back. And then my dad, especially, I was not allowed to have a relationship with, which was really, really hard, because my dad had custody of us since I could remember. Like, he was my safe spot. If I was sick, like, I wanted my dad. Like, if I was homesick, I wanted my dad. I wanted to be in my dad's house. And that kind of got thrown away whenever all this was going on, and it was very, very hard. And I will say, I was mad at my dad at first too for working with them, because I didn't see, like, what I was doing was wrong, I guess. So I was upset that he had done what he had done, but looking back now, like, I would do it for mine too. I don't hold that against him. But so me not being able to have a relationship with my dad nor my brother, it was really difficult, really, really difficult. And my mom and my sister would tell me all the time about how they were asking how I was doing, all the above. My sister and my mom kind of had an idea that he was being abusive because I wouldn't give too much information. Like, I was always making excuses for him. I literally constantly had makeup on. Like, it didn't matter what I was doing, I had to wear makeup because I looked older. So they kind of had an idea, but never asked me about it, because I don't think that they wanted to, like, offend me, or I guess is what the correct word would be. So it took about a year and a half, and I started talking to my dad behind his back. I called my dad. I thought the whole relationship and the abuse, he had put it in my head so much that it was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. That I was in such a depressed state. Like, whenever I tell you, like, I was a depressed human. Like, I ended up going to the doctor and getting put on medicine because I thought it was all me. It was all in my head. He wasn't being abusive because that's what he had fed to me for so long. So I finally started talking to my dad. I'd finally started talking to my brother, but I could only do it behind his back. So that's kind of how that happened. So still, I will say, like, I was a good kid. Nobody could have ever expected this from me. So I will say, like, whenever I had to tell my dad, like, when I told him, it was possibly the hardest thing. I truly thought, like, oh my gosh, like, he's gonna go in this man, like, he's touching his baby. And said teacher did admit to my mother, like, on the phone, that yes, he had been abusive. So there was no denying it. So whenever I had asked for a divorce, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And I will always appreciate how all my family handled it. Like, they handled it just listening to me and being there for me. You know, whatever I wanted, they were going to support. And said teacher had called my dad whenever I'd asked for a divorce. And I don't really know how that conversation went. My dad kind of touched on it a little bit, but he pretty much just at the end of the phone call said, I can't make her love you. And I'm one of those people that if I'm done, I'm done. I will give it my all until it's no longer good enough. And then once I'm done, I'm done. So I was at that point. I was over it. I was done. So that's kind of how that situation went down. There's no red flags that they could have seen besides he was my teacher and the age gap about the abuse because I wasn't around them for them to be able to notice. The people that noticed first was our friends. We lived in an apartment complex and we all had like little block parties. We'd all grill out and all, eat. They were the ones that really, really, really saw the red flags and definitely talked to me about it. They were all reaching out like, something going on. We don't know what, but we kind of have an idea. And there's so much more to life about that. So there was one specific person that I had told first. And I'll never forget how there he was for me. And it just still blows my mind. All of our friends kind of surrounded me and loved on me and let me know that they were there. I could talk to them about anything. But yeah, so my family really didn't have an idea because I wasn't around enough. I guess that would be the way to answer that question. So yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Okay, so more on Who the F Did I Marry and me marrying my high school teacher. A lot of people wanted to know what our marriage was like and our relationship was like and if the ex-wife called the police or not. Yes, she did. It was explained to me by him that he fell asleep on the recliner and she went through the phone and found out. Smashed it with a hammer, which is fair if that's how it happened, but he's known to be a liar, so we don't really know. So after that, he got a new phone and pretty much didn't stop us. So she went to the police absolutely and the district attorney like she should. I want to start out by saying, like, he was not upfront abusive. He actually, like, talked a good game. He wasn't ugly. All the above. Like, we had a pretty good relationship at first, I would say. A good relationship for a 18-year-old and a 37-year-old, which is...
And that's how it always starts out. Every time. Of course, in the beginning, listen, if you ain't been around this channel for a long time, then you just don't know. But in the beginning, that's what narcissists do. They hit you with the love bombing stage. Always, listen, women, please, because this happens with women way more than men. Please watch out for these signs. It's always love bombing. Love bombing is always the first thing a man will do when they want to get your attention, get your trust, gain control. They're going to love bomb you. I'm not saying every man that gives you something is looking for something in return, but majority of them are. I don't care what no man says. Majority of men are looking for something in return when they give you something. So the fact that he was love bombing her in the beginning and showing her so much appreciation, that was all a part of the plan. Of course, he waited as soon as he got her into the home by herself, got her into his control completely. That's when he started to abuse her. That's when he started to show himself. And I don't know how to avoid that part, but all I can say is just watch out for the love bombing and try to get to know the person you with a little more. Now, in this situation, she was very young. Of course, that's a red flag in itself. I don't care what nobody say. Age ain't nothing but a number. She was legal. I don't give a damn. If a man is that much older than you, I don't know what I will get out of dating. I'm 30, 31. I don't know what the hell I will get out of dating a 18-year-old little girl. Like, what in the hell would I be there for? What do we have in common? You can't even go to the bar with me. You can't do a lot of things with me. Hell, you can't even get a rental if I need you to grab me a rental. Let's go out of town. Like, it's nothing you can do. And no offense if you're 18 years old. It's just nothing a grown man can do with a little girl like that. So you weird off the jump to me.
Yeah, and then not even that. You got to think that first year that they were married, he still had this case going on. So of course he's gonna be the perfect husband that he could be, because at any moment you could just turn to your lawyer, turn to the courts, and be like, "Actually, he convinced me to say these things."
Right, right.
But like I think he only escalated this relationship because of the fact that they had this court going on. Because he seems like he was already ashamed making her wear makeup every day. So
Right.
I don't think he thought this was gonna be more than just a flame.
Right.
It seems like he's already embarrassed.
Right. The makeup thing, that's just another way of insecurity. He knew he was wrong. He knew he was dating a kid. You shouldn't have to make a woman wear makeup. Like women don't have to wear makeup. Like I don't like you because y'all see Honade always in her natural state most of the time. If she want to dress up and wear makeup, she can wear makeup. But to force a person to wear makeup that says a lot about a person, a man. If he don't like you unless you wear makeup, that says a lot about the relationship and how he feels about you. In this situation, definitely 100% was because he didn't want to be walking around in his friend groups with a young looking woman and everybody's asking how old she looks. I wish we had a picture of him. We had a picture of him. That's crazy.
Mind you, he moved out of the state so that nobody would notice that, he was dating a younger person, because everybody in their state knew what was going on.
Right. Which is weird as hell. That's why I would be nervous too if I was him. Don't go. Are you going to go to the news? That's wild. The news? That's what you're thinking? Not the police. The news?
That's the first thing he's worried about when they get into it.
He's trying not to lose public perception. He already know he won the legal stuff. He know he not going to prison. He done married her. He done did all the stuff. No way. I don't think she could take none of that back at this point. You can't say, oh, he forced me. It's over with. It's cooked season. But when it comes to the public perception, like us, oh yeah, we looking at this sideways, upside down, every way we can. This is weird. This is weird business. And he shouldn't be nowhere near a school, a kid, or nothing. He needs to be put on the pedophile list. I don't care what nobody say.
It's wrong. But so I'm gonna touch on that. So at the beginning, like we did everything together. It was nice. It wasn't just civil. We had a good relationship again. It wasn't until about right after we got married. So this all started in September. We got married in June. So like maybe 1 or 2 months afterwards is whenever the red flags of him being abusive really started showing. It should have been a red flag anyways that he was that much older than me and my teacher, but it didn't occur to me at that point. When he woke me up that one morning at 3 a.m. screaming at me to call my dad and ask my dad why my dad wanted him in jail, which we know why my dad wanted him in jail. And I'm boo-hooing on the phone with him. Then there was another time we had gotten in an argument, and one of the times he told me to call his ex-wife and tell her that I was sorry for breaking up his family and to please take him back. And looking back now, I should have in hopes that she would have. But he had started yelling at me and started like grabbing my arm and stuff like that. So I said, I'm going to call your sister. And we had a very long hallway, and I was like crawling back towards the kitchen and the living room and the dining room, and he's like on top of me the whole way there, wrestling the phone out of my hands. That's why I say the family wasn't like they didn't know things were going on. So that's really whenever it tipped the iceberg. And then whenever he started getting mad, like if my niece and nephews came over, like it was always an argument. And I thought that whenever we moved out of the small town that we're from and we went into the city, that it would get better. We'd be away from everything, be away from everybody talking, and it would just relieve a lot of stress off of our relationship. Little did I know that was going to make it worse. We moved into a studio apartment, and it got really, 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 really bad. Like, thrown down the stairs, like, crazy things started happening, and we had probably lived in a studio, and it got bad there, and then we moved into a one-bedroom in the same complex, and it would get better, like, after these arguments, it would get better for about a week, and maybe 2 weeks, and it would be great, and it's like, I would try to focus on the good times, not just the negative times, and it just never worked out. So I want to say abuse does not start automatically in my situation. It actually took a couple of months for that to happen. He ended up proposing to me in the house that him and the ex lived in. He proposed to me, but I picked out the ring, and I pretty much paid for the ring myself, which is stupid, but anyways, more on that. So, yes, the ex-wife did go to the police. She smashed the phone, he got a new phone. Whenever we got busted, he also brought me a burner phone. We were not supposed to be in contact, and we were. And my dad and my parents and my grandparents tried to talk me out of it every day. Everybody's asked that. Why didn't your parents try to talk you out of it? They did. They did. They absolutely did. Begged me to, actually. And it just never, ever came to my mind that what I was doing was wrong. And what the situation was wrong. Also, another thing I want to touch on. So, my now husband is not the teacher. We're 9 years apart. I mean, have you seen a 29-year-old man? Like, that's not anything that I'm attracted to. So, if you have any other questions, let me know. Hi, my name is Amy. I married my high school teacher whenever I was 18. He was 36, 37 years old. And I'm trying to wrap up this series. I've seen the questions, and I'm trying to answer them the best that I can. But a lot of people wondered how we were able to get married if it was illegal, and if he's still a teacher, or if he taught after this. So I want to say no. He definitely did not teach after all this came out. They had put him on placed him on administrative paid leave when all this came out. And it was pretty much aware that we were not allowed to speak, because I was considered the victim at that point. That we could not speak unless he was no longer a teacher. So it took him, I think, a month or two, and he resigned as a teacher from the Board of Education. They accepted his resignation, and him and I started talking. So that's how we were able to get a marriage certificate and get married, because it was no longer illegal once he resigned from his position. So that's that. He could not teach after that, cannot teach now, which, as he shouldn't be able to. The other thing I want to touch on is some people are confused. I said we had bills and we had child support. I'm not saying when he resigned, he had a job. It wasn't like he didn't work, and it wasn't like I was paying for everything. He worked. He just didn't make enough. He wasn't making what he made as a teacher. And so, yes, we were married. That's what married people do. You help each other out. And if that meant that I had to pay for child support for a child that wasn't mine, for her to be taken care of, absolutely, I was going to do it. Absolutely. 100%, no questions asked. I wouldn't let any child today go without. So, I definitely wasn't going to let my husband and the person I loved child go without. I never got to meet her, which is fine. And whenever I started asking for a divorce, that's what he wanted to say. Oh, well, you can meet her now. And I was so done at that point that I just let him know, like...
Yeah, let's talk about that one. Paying child support for a kid that's not yours.
Yeah, I applaud that, but then you couldn't even meet the child until after you said you wanted to get a divorce.
And the fact that he's holding a child from her is crazy to me. Like, this is weird all around. First of all, you got me paying child support for somebody, for another child that I can't even see. Now that's right there is a different type of loyalty. Shout out to her, because never in history have I ever heard that before. Somebody else paying your child support, and you still neglecting, you still abusing, and you not letting me see the child I'm paying for. But somehow way, I feel like the reason why she even has any connections with that child is because he instilled that in her. She was young. You got to remember this.
Yeah.
So he probably made her feel like, if you love me, then you got to love my daughter and you got to show me that you care about her too because she needs to eat. First of all, what the other parent doing?
I think it was more like guilt tripping. Like,
Yeah, I'm
I
saying.
got with you and now I lost my job. So now I'm not able to provide for this, but I lost my job because I love you so much. And now it's just like the mind game. Like, oh, all this happened because our love for each other.
Like, wow. Like,
But
manipulation is at an all-time high with this one.
yeah, I honestly feel like that's why he was trying to have her call the ex-wife and apologize. I feel like maybe the ex-wife was keeping the child from them.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if your husband is doing stuff like that, I would do the same
Right,
thing.
and I forget that, the whole other mother is the whole wife, the ex-wife that had literally just got cheated on. Man, I wouldn't have paid women, don't feel bad for us. It's our obligations to take care of our children. You don't have to pay our child support. That man had enough money to go pay child support at least. I, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even you can't tell me you ain't making enough to pay child support. What are you paying? He probably got waxed because he cheated on his wife. Though.
Oh yeah,
He
them
probably
divorce lawyers were not playing.
Oh my goodness, they took him up top. You cheat on your wife and she got proof, you're cooked. Everything she wants in that agreement, they about to give her. Everything. So just think about that, fellas. If you marry now, you can destroy a full village, a whole village, because of your cheating ways. So just be cautious of that. And, obviously hurting the women in your lives and the children. And your children going to disrespect you for the rest of their life. But you'll be all right. You got other shit to fry.
For her sake and my sake, I don't want to, because I'm telling you that's not going to fix our relationship. I'm done, and that's just going to mess with her head even more than what the whole situation did. So that's kind of how that went, and I would do it today. Like if him and I in some crazy world were still married today, I would do whatever it took to help pay for child support if that's what was needed. Absolutely. So the other question a lot of people add is, how did his family treat me? And I would say, given the situation at hand, me being his student, him being my teacher, him being 19 years older than I am, I was treated, his mom and his stepdad, I never got to meet his dad. His dad passed, and I hate that. But they were good to me. They were never ugly to me. They were very supportive during the relationship. It wasn't until I asked for a divorce that's whenever, oh, well, you made it seem, or it wasn't as bad as what I was saying. And they would ask me, like, if we take his guns out of the house or out of the apartment, would you be comfortable with staying? And I said no, because that was not the only form of abuse that man used. It wasn't just about the guns. The guns were a big part, but it was never just about the guns. And I want to say that. It was never just about the guns. And that's kind of what they played on. Like, oh, well, it was just solely about the guns. He was going to be that way regardless if there was guns or not in that house. He would constantly tell me to call the ex-wife and apologize to her and try to get her back for him. There was just so many levels to the abuse that it's crazy. And a lot of people, oh, well, of course I told the story different whenever we were married. I loved him. Well, why didn't you call the cops? I loved him. Regardless of that, I loved him, and I protected him from jail once. It was not like I wanted him in jail. We were still married. I'm the type of person that I focus on the good. Even whenever I shouldn't, and I should focus on the bad. I see the good in everybody, and I want to see the good in everybody. And so it wasn't like it was every day he was beating me or being emotionally and mentally abusive. That's not how it was. We had good days. Whenever it was good, it was really good. And whenever it was bad, it was really bad. And that's the only thing that I can say about that. That's another thing. Like, if you take anything from this, talk to your children, even if they're older. Let them know, like, there's so many signs of grooming and abuse and domestic violence and emotional and mental abuse. Because I used to tell, whenever I got out, I used to tell people I almost would have rathered him hit me than use the mental abuse tactics that he did, because it messed with my brain and it made me feel like I deserved that. And I didn't deserve that. No one deserves that. And I literally had told people that I would have rathered him put his hands on me physically than to say the things that I was being told. So, that's another thing that I will say. And that's just coming from the domestic violence and the abuse, the mental abuse. There's been multiple people that I have talked to that have felt the same way. But back to his family, I was treated well until I asked for the divorce. He flipped out whenever I had finally called my dad at my job and told him everything that was going on. My dad was going to come get me. He had went through my phone and saw where that was happening. So before that, I had acted like everything was okay because I knew that whenever I left, and the plan was that I was leaving when he went to work one day. And he had found out before, and he had came home, and it was just full-blown argument. And all he was worried about was if I was going to go to the news or if I was going to get him in trouble. So it was never about, oh, I love you and I'm fixing to lose you and I don't want that. It was never about that. It was, he was scared that I was going to the news and I was going to get him in more trouble. Which I don't, there's no way I could get him in more trouble now. So, I mean, is what it is. And everybody's like, well, you're sharing it so much later. And I'm coming from a place now, healing. It took me a long, long, long time to forgive him for me. I held so much resentment towards him that it took years of therapy for me to attempt to get over it. Years. So whenever I finally did, like, I feel like I should be able to tell my story on what I went through because I lived it. I'm the one that went through it. And nobody's abuse and domestic violence should ever be unnoticed or made them feel like they shouldn't come out and talk about it. That should have never happened. But I will say, I'm going to wrap up this part series, unless there's other questions that I need to answer, with I don't wish him any harm. I never have. Truly, I never have. I've never wished anything bad would happen to him. Ever. And I still don't. I hope whoever he's with or gets with in the future, I hope he can treat them better than how he treated me. And I hope that hopefully I was a lesson for him to not treat people like shit and to treat your spouse with love and respect and only that. So I want to say like that's at the forefront of my mind. I don't hate him anymore. I had to forgive myself for that, and I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with living with that. I don't wish him any harm. I don't wish his family any harm. I don't wish the sister any harm. I hope that they live long, happy lives, and I hope they're happy in their relationships, and I hope they treat them better, and that's all I can hope for, and wish for. So I want that to come off genuine because that's truly all I care about is somebody not having to go through what I went through. And I hope that I was that lesson for him to not do that to anybody else.
All right, Messy family. So that pretty much wraps up that story time. What are you guys' thoughts when it comes to this? This makes me question whether or not I should send my kids to school or homeschooling. But can we even avoid situations like this? How can we avoid situations like this?
Yeah, can't even trust your kids go to school. You think that they would do more background checks and they would just know what's going on. Well, okay, yeah, maybe not that.
No, that's cool, but it's like look at the camera when you're talking. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dang, what was I say? All right, say what I said. You say yours.
I definitely feel like the school had let her down, and maybe not even her, just even all the other victims he's possibly had at the school. Because one, he didn't go to jail, which caused this student to be abused later on, be in a marriage, financially abused. And this trauma, luckily she's healing right now and still going to therapy, because I couldn't even imagine being manipulated by your teacher at that.
Right. I honestly want to know the school she went to, if I'm being honest with you, because make sure your kids don't go to that school. All they doing is just letting people off. They paid this man a paid leave, meaning that he was able to make money while at home waiting on a decision to be made. which is crazy. Then they allowed him to resign. So what's going to stop him from getting another school job? If none of these charges ever hit, like, he probably can still be teaching at a school right now. She said he ain't, but what's stopping him? He has no record of anything. Plus, the school never fired him. They let him resign, so that's going to be on his resume. So I don't know, but shout out to the storyteller though. At the end of the day, this was a story time, and I'm happy she was able to get that off her chest. In this situation, I do not view you as the villain. I view you as the victim in this situation. You were 18, yes, but I don't. You luckily, yeah, I don't look at 18-year-olds as grown-ups. I mean, maybe I do, but I don't care what the law said. Them kids to me. You ain't a grown-up to me until your frontal lobe develop. Honestly, that's just how I look at it. Because you still got a lot of learning, a lot of development to do. Like those type of things that he played with her, he couldn't have did that on no older woman whose frontal lobe is fully developed. They're not falling for that. They're going to the police immediately.
He definitely groomed and targeted her for years.
Right. It's been developing. He was just a favorite teacher. You know, the one he probably was giving her good grades, all type of stuff. We've all been to high school. We all saw favoritism, but we never thought that it was something like that going on behind the scenes. No telling how many times we probably seen it or didn't even notice that it was happening, but it was happening. But this is crazy. If you guys are interested in following this creator for more updates or just, just to give her some words of encouragement, y'all already know what to do. Go ahead and check that description box out below. I will have her credited so you guys can follow her directly on her website. Let us know what you think about the new style, the format that we're doing. Honestly, we should be able to post more content for you guys now because of this new style that we're doing. It's a lot easier when it comes to editing and stuff like that. But also we got some raw video footage in there too. So just let us know if y'all want us to go back to editing and clipping it and doing a little, the silent thing behind the scenes, then we can do that. The reason why we went silent halfway through the videos because we was having audio issues. And if our headphones are not working, then y'all going to be getting double audio. So I don't want you guys having to hear it double, So we're still trying to learn how to use this system. But at the end of the day, we hope you guys liked it. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hype this video up. And we will see you guys in the next story time. Peace.